Good evening, and welcome to the Lowell Planning Board meeting for October 17th, 2011. We have a public hearing that is on the agenda this evening, as well as a new business pre-application for review. The public hearing, which was started on October 3rd and was continued to tonight for a further continuation of the public hearing, is for public hearing at 279 Pawtucket Street. The Lowell Planning Board will hear a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an application by Hawkinsville Estate, Inc. for site plan review and special permit for a project located at the above address. The existing parcel contains 13,465 square feet of land, 1 three-family dwelling, and 2 parking spaces. The proposal includes the partial demolition and conversion of the existing 3-family building to a 2-family dwelling, the construction of 2 new single-family houses, and increasing on-site parking from 2 spaces to 8 spaces. A proposed approval not require subdivision would divide the parcel into 3 parcels, where the existing structure in each new single-family home would occupy a separate lot. The applicant is seeking site plan review under Section 11.4 of the Lowell zoning code and special permit under Section 9.4 neighborhood character special permit and Article 12 table of uses. The parcel is located in the traditional mixed-use zoning district. As indicated, we were here 2 weeks ago, and we heard from Attorney Flood and the engineer, and we heard from several people in the neighborhood who spoke, who had mostly in favor, but did have questions and some concerns, and the matter was continued to tonight's meeting. At that point in time, we only had 4 board members, and tonight we do have the 5 board members. I believe at this point in time, Mr. Genman was not present, but he has reviewed, and actually he informed me that he watched the meeting live, so he has signed our Mullen rule in advance, so he will be allowed to vote this evening, so he's up to date on what took place in his absence at the last meeting. So having said that, I will turn it over to the applicant at this point in time.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, James Flood at 549 Roger Street, representing Hawkins Real Estate, Inc., the owner of the property. I'll just take over where we left off last time. I know Mr. Claremont had raised an issue about if there were any need of repairs on the roadway or in the infiltration system, what protection does the city have? And I don't know whether you've gotten it, but I did revise the Declaration of Covenants and Restrictions to provide an easement to the city to come in and provide those services necessary to build a homeowner's trust, and if they're not paid, they would have the right to place a lien on each property. So I did that. There was also a question as to the no parking on Fall Street, whether the city of Lowell would enforce it. I did speak to Deputy Superintendent Arthur Ryan, and he indicated to me that if it's part of a planning board decision that it's a no parking zone, they would respond to any calls in tow if necessary. So he did say that to me. I think there were some other comments that were received from staff as a result of the last meeting. Mr. Pesnola has a letter that addressed those, and I think I'll turn it over to him to take care of those issues, and we'll be glad to answer any other questions the board has.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Joe Pesnola from Hancock Associates. We did receive on October 12th a correspondence from Craig Thomas, the assistant planner, with several issues that he felt were still outstanding, and also tried to summarize some of the board's points from the prior meeting. I'll just go through our responses to those comments. First was with regards to parking. We did have quite a bit of discussion at the last meeting with regards to visitor parking. As you recall, the project requires 2 parking spaces per unit. We're providing that, but there was a question as to the availability of visitor parking. Mr. Thomas had suggested maybe that we pave more of Fall Street and provide some parking down below within the right-of-way. Subsequent to that, he called me and relayed to me a conversation he had with the fire department with regards to the fire department's desire to have no parking on the improved Fall Street. And they clarified that no parking was related to access to the hydrant. And furthermore, that they were okay with moving the hydrant further up on Fall Street. Right now we have it down across from, essentially across from the driveway of Lot 3. Fire department said you could move that up as long as it's within 100 feet of all of the houses. So we would propose to move it up about 80 feet. And that would kind of define the fire department's desire to have no parking on Fall Street. Furthermore, we would sign the gated entranceway in the fence for the Sisters of Charity of Ottawa, and have that no parking, do not block gate to maintain their access. And we'd also widen the roadway from 20 to 22 feet to provide the maximum availability of parking, of not disrupting the travel on Fall Street if there were people parking there. We also have the availability of continuing for people to have continued to travel down Fall Street on the gravel way and park on what we're calling a drainage and snow storage easement, which is where the drainage is. That area is proposed to be at the same level as the gravel access way down there. That is the Commonwealth's access to the canal. So that's another availability of some parking. So we think with those provisions, we're providing, we're addressing the board's concerns. The next item was with regard to granite curbing, and Mr. Thomas was recommending that we go from the bituminous concrete to granite, BA4 vertical granite curbing, for purposes of drainage control and just long-term maintenance, and not overburdening the homeowners association, where this is going to be private, with repair and maintenance of a bituminous concrete. We don't disagree with that, but we feel from the standpoint of drainage control and long-term maintenance, that an alternative of maybe sloped granite curbing would be acceptable to the board. It will provide ample containment of the drainage in the manner that we're looking for. It'll also provide at the end of Fall Street a mountable curb so that the Commonwealth can get down there and that other vehicles could get down there, and provide long-term maintenance. Our discussions with Lisa DeMeo, the city engineer, she didn't have a problem with the bituminous concrete because it's not going to be a city roadway. It's going to be a private drive, a private roadway maintained by the homeowners. So I think if we did slope granite, again, the curbing is only on one side because we're super elevating the road to maintain the exact grades along the Sisters of Charity. And we've got the one double catch basin on the left-hand side. So we're just looking at curbing on the left-hand side. So we would propose, in response to staff comments, slope granite curbing. The next was a kind of building off that with regard to the mountable curb at the end. And I think that, as I said, the slope granite curbing would serve that purpose as well. The last comments were with regards to some of kind of summarizing some of the points that were made by the board and that were discussed at the last meeting, trying to begin to maybe put conditions together. The first one was with regard to doing the work on the house, the existing house first. We had committed to that, for that to be perfectly fine with us to get that renovation done. Just want to make sure that that doesn't preclude us from having to do some site works that will set up for that. There is quite a bit of grade change in the back of the building with the two-story garage. It's a garage that's serviced from both Pawtucket and from around back. There's some retaining walls. To facilitate the removal of that appendage up the back, we've got to do some site work. We've got to bring some fill in. So we would propose that a condition be prior to full building permits for the two houses, the renovation be done, but not a preclusion on some of the site work. The next one was with regards to grading, and we took a closer look at grading and to ensure that we're not going to adversely affect any of the neighboring lots. And as I said, the Fall Street will be pitched towards our project, so I think we've ensured that the Sisters of Charity are okay. And with regard to the abutting property on the other side, we've looked at the grades, and there's a steep embankment there up to the parking lot for the funeral home, and we think that what we have proposed will also serve to protect those. And if furthermore, if there needs to be a condition to codify that, we're fine with that. With regard to the planting and the trees, we think it's appropriate for us to have to present a planting plan to a department, to DPD staff for review and acceptance. As we talked about last time, we are taking down 3 trees on the right-hand side, and we would propose 6 trees on the left-hand side to mitigate that. We did have discussions with Craig regarding the caliper. He was talking about, I think, 4-inch caliper trees or 4 or 5-inch caliper trees, and we just caution the use of such a large caliper tree at planting. It's our experience that those trees, although available, have a lower success rate because they're kind of they're set in their ways, if you will. And the smaller caliper trees are more vigorous and tend to have a better chance of success, a better chance of surviving. The next condition or proposed issue was working with the Lowell Historic Board on the details of not only the renovation but the houses, and we've met with Steve Stoll very early in the project, and we'll continue to work with the Historic Board to get input and work out the details of those. We would welcome a condition to that effect. The last item was with regard to the configuration of Lot 2. Lot 2 has a tail to it, if you will, that goes down behind Lot 3. We looked at reconfiguring that, and what it does is it adversely, in our mind, adversely affects the building envelope for Lot 3. We've tried to come up with a plan that has the decorative front porch, gable front end, the side garage that could be used, that we envisioned could have a rooftop deck with views to the canal, and so we've really tried to come up with a house that works, but trying to reconfigure the lots to eliminate that back area just closes in on Lot 3, the building envelope with the required setbacks. So what we would propose is to work with it and right up front install a fence at the back of Lot 3 and install some stairs down from Lot 2 and make that usable so that the Lot 2 owner knows it's there, uses it for access down to the canal and the Commonwealth's land. And Lot 3 knows that the confines of their property. We could put not only a fence, but some arborvitae as well, and work with staff on the planting plan to make sure that that area is clearly demarked. So with that, I think that addresses the staff comments. I did receive an email at 5:58 from Lisa DeMeo. She had two points. One with regard to the stormwater management requirements. We had a statement in our narrative that said we did not need to comply with DEP stormwater guidelines because we're less than 4 lots. And she was pointing out that we do have to comply because it is a requirement of the city. And I can report that our system does comply. We do meet the treatment, the attenuation, and the recharge requirements, which are the 3 primary requirements of DEP's stormwater regulations. And we can certainly, we've provided the calculations and the supporting documentation to Ms. DeMeo previously to support that. And her second point was with regard to what she perceived to be draining from the street onto private property. And we know we're doing that. That's the proposal. The catch basins lead to a treatment device and then into an infiltration. That is contained on Lot 3. It's contained within, or we propose to put an easement around that. The easement area is not included in the usable open space for Lot 3. And the homeowners association will have the requirements to maintain that. It won't be the burden of just Lot 3, but it will be the requirement or the responsibility of all 3 lot owners. So, be happy to answer any questions the board might have. I'm sorry, just one more point. The fencing that we would propose is 4-foot vinyl fence.
Could I ask you, Joe, just to point out, I know you talked early on about the moving of the fire hydrant and the fire department being okay with the no parking just up to the fire hydrant. You know, where would that be if you could show on the plan?
Currently, we're proposing a fire hydrant down here. If we moved it 80 feet up to approximately here, across from the 2 parking spaces for Lot 1, that would be within 90 feet of the house on Lot 3. The gate for Sisters of Charity is right here. There's a retaining wall along Fall Street and with a fence on top of it. And on the back side of that is where the Sisters of Charity have a parking lot. And then there's a grade change as that retaining wall turns back and goes perpendicular. There's a grade drop down to the level of Fall Street, and there's a gate in the fence there. So we would have no parking down to the hydrant, and then no parking in front of the gate.
So the no parking wouldn't be continuous down to the gate? There'd be no parking at the beginning, and then an area where they could park, and then no parking beyond that?
Yes.
Is that right?
How many spaces?
Just, Joe, Mr. Chair, for further clarification. Joe, there'll be no parking where the gate is located, but there will be parking even beyond that towards the canal, though, is that correct?
Yeah, there won't be parking in front of the gate, there won't be parking from the hydrant up, so there'll be the availability of probably one car here, and then
From
you'd
that
be able
point
to
all the way
park all the
back.
way down at the end.
Okay. And Joe, could you explain the slope granite curbing, how the vehicles will be able to drive over that, how it will be set up on both sides of the, where Fall Street, the pavement area ends, and where the gravel area will be located?
Yeah, what we envision here is that the slope granite curbing is pitched at between a 30 and a 45-degree angle. Generally speaking, it's got about a 4-inch rise. It's very similar to the profile of bituminous concrete Cape Cod curbing, it's sometimes called. We would make sure that we had a good compacted gravel base, or compacted gravel at the top of that, blending in with the grades of the existing gravel driveway there, so that cars could pull up on and
So the
go
grade
up
of the
onto it.
gravel will be up to the level of the curbing? You could
Yes.
drive up to it, and then you'd back down off of it?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Joe, the granite curbing, again, you are suggesting to use sloped granite as opposed to the vertical. What's your reasoning behind that? Is there a cost issue there, or what?
Yeah, there's a considerable cost differential, and it has to do with the materials. The vertical granite curbing is a more costly cut, where the slope granite curbing is more of a rough hewn, and then labor. It's much less labor intensive to get the vertical granite to line up perfectly and to chink each joint. With the slope granite, it's a less labor intensive.
One other question regarding the grading. Your notes indicate that you have not received any comments back from the city engineer, is that correct?
No, we haven't received formal comments from city engineer.
Right, so we're still
As I said,
waiting.
I did get an email at 5:58 tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, I just have one question I have. Could you explain what you just mentioned before on the letter you wrote to us in regards to, when you talk about lot 2 and 3, of eliminating the 5-foot strip, could you just show that on plan? Along with the rear of lot 3, the strip cannot be eliminated, you indicated, but you said you'd propose the house that would have a negative impact on the usable lot, and we'd add a fence in the back of 3? Can you tell me what that would
Right,
be?
so this is the back of lot 3, and it's part of lot 2. It's a 5-foot wide strip that runs along between the properties. Our thinking is if we have to take this area and put it on lot 2, it pushes this property line and starts to squeeze the building area, because we've got a curve here on the frontage, so we've got a setback coming this way, setback coming this way, setback coming this way. It starts to squeeze the building envelope of lot 3, and we'd have to change the house. Right now, it's a 36 by 24 main house with a front porch, gable end front, with a 1-car garage that's 12 by 23 and a half. So it's the right size, and to get smaller than that would start to we think would compromise the building. So what we would do is we would put the 4-foot vinyl fence with arborvitae along that to define that as the back of lot 3. So lot 3 didn't think they owned all the way out to the abutting fence line. And then we'd put stairs here. We've got a small retaining wall here with a 3 or 4 foot drop. We would put stairs here so that lot 2 could use that to access the state land and the canal and the all of the natural area.
Any of the board members have any further questions for the engineer? If not, we'll continue with the public hearing. Okay. Is there anything else, Joe, you want to add at this time, or? Anything else, Joe, you want to add in regards to your changes to the plan since our last meeting?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
We're all
thank you.
set.
All right. Mr. Flood, does anybody else want to speak on behalf of the applicant before I turn it over to the public?
I don't think so, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
At this point in time, if anybody here would like to speak in favor of the project, I know we had a few people spoke last time, but if anybody else wants to speak, I know the plans have been changed a little bit. We didn't have all the new plans that were submitted to us until prior to the last meeting, so I know some of the people who were here had questions about what plans we were reviewing last time, what plans we're reviewing tonight, and we indicated that we get those new plans online. So obviously, if anybody would like to speak in favor at this point in time, can you please come to the microphone and just state your name and address for the record, if you would, please?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Jim O'Donnell from 54 Adam Terrace. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. I spoke in favor of it last time, and I want to see something happen, so I guess that can constitute still being in favor, but I had a fair amount of concerns last time, and I have a couple that came up tonight, so I guess if this is the appropriate venue to be consistent, I'll speak at this point.
Fine.
Okay. We had, a lot of people spoke in favor of it, because I think everybody would like to see something done in the neighborhood, and the ambitious project they've taken on is obviously encouraging in the sense of how it's going to affect the front part of the property, which we're all anxious to see. In regards to the other parts of the project, obviously there's some things that are going to be coming in front of you to decide upon that. But tonight, I just kind of came to be an observer and see what was happening, but I did have some questions based upon what was discussed last time and what was brought forward tonight. I just wanted to ask them, I guess, of the people here, because it came up tonight. One was, the last meeting, there was kind of discussion about the parking issue, and that there really wasn't going to be any parking other than the parking on site for 2 per person. And that the rest of the street would not have parking, and then I think someone said, I'm not sure who it was, that they'd have to find appropriate parking in the area to go visit friends and so forth down in these new residences. Listening tonight, I'm a little confused about the fact that there is going to be parking on that street. So I'm not sure if that changed in between, or if that was something that happened between the city and the developer and whatever, but I was under the impression there was no parking on this fall street. So my question is there parking or isn't there parking? That's one question. The next is it a private roadway or is it a public? And I guess my naivete about this is, what's the difference? I don't really quite understand that, and maybe this isn't the forum to ask that question. I apologize if I'm speaking to the wrong group. But when you're having discussions about private ways and the trust taking care of the street, and then you're saying, public access to certain parts of the street, like the fencing behind there for the Sisters of Charity, I guess my question is which and how does that work? And then the third thing was just a passing thing about the trees, or being trees taken down on the right side, and they're going to be planted ones on the left. And I was just curious, if the trees on the right side are being taken down, are they on the property they're buying, or they are on another spot that's not related to the property they're buying? So I wasn't sure where that stood either, and I just didn't have the plans in front of me, I apologize. So if the trees are on the right side of their property, that's obviously their right, and if it's no question about it, and I just wasn't sure if the right side meant the right side of their property or the right side of the end of the street. Those are just 3 questions I had. I'm sure they can handle them pretty easily, but I just wanted to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Joe, I'll let you respond to those if you'd like.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. With regard to the parking, the prohibition on parking came about from the fire department comments. And because of the location, of the proposed location of the hydrant, which we chose on the original submission, the fire department was looking for the extent of Fall Street to be no parking. Fire department has now, through a conversation with Craig Thomas, the assistant planner, has said that we can move the hydrant closer to Pawtucket, and that would be the only area that they would be concerned about having posted as no parking. In addition, we heard last time the Sisters of Charity and the desire for them to continue to be able to access their property and through that gate. So we committed to also providing no parking at that location. So there will be, in the absence of a prohibition, there will be allowed parking there. for the residents. And additionally, we talked about parking further down beyond the improved way on the lower half of Lot 3. So that's, I think, should answer that. With regard to private-public, the roadway maintenance, snow plowing, anything that has to be done that normally the city would do on a public way will be maintained by the homeowners association. And the reason that we're looking at proposing this as a private way is because of the standards of construction. If we were proposing this as a public way, the city requires 28 feet of pavement. The right-of-way is only 25 feet wide. Vertical granite curbing, all of the strict requirements. So it has been done in the past in the city, and that's what we're proposing today, is to have the board look at something less than those full standards, and with the understanding that we wouldn't be looking for the city to maintain the property. We would create a homeowners association, and we've provided all of the legal documents for that creation to the city, and the homeowners would be responsible. And as Attorney Flood said, he's revised those documents to provide for a mechanism that if that maintenance does not happen, for the city to step in and I would imagine lien the properties to get to be able to fund whatever's not being done. Lastly, with regard to the trees, the 3 trees are within the Fall Street right-of-way. We believe we have obviously the right to make improvements on Fall Street. That's what we're doing. We're paving it, we're putting curb, we're putting drainage in that. Those trees are impacted by that improvement, and they have to come down. For the same reason we believe we have the right to improve it, we believe we have the right to take the trees down. They are not on private property. They are within the Fall Street right-of-way.
Joe, can I just ask you one other question that lead up to that? When you indicated that now they would be parking on Fall Street, I know you indicated there'd be one parking space between the hydrant and the Sisters gateway. Do you have any idea how many parking spaces would be available past that gateway entrance?
2 or 3.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak in favor of the project? Anybody in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. At this point in time, anyone want to speak in opposition? Anyone want to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. At this point in time, I'll turn it over to any of the board members. Have any questions, concerns, or comments? Mr. Chairman, you mind if I start with you?
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So I had a couple of questions. What about snow removal? What are we going to do for snow removal on the site?
We are going to designate the easement on Lot 3 as both drainage and snow storage.
Mm-hmm.
As you move down, there's an area.
Easement being the, yeah, point it out, that'd be great.
The easement would be this area here. There's a retaining wall, a proposed retaining wall along that section that separates the usable open space on Lot 3, which is well in excess of the requirement. from this lower plateau that's at the same elevation as the continuation of the right-of-way that's not being improved. We would designate that for both drainage and snow storage, and we've got an opening here that allows the plows to get the snow, down into that area that wouldn't impact access. We just don't want them to just push it to the end and stop, because that would prevent the state from being able to access their property.
Now, you said that, there was a request that the renovation for the existing building begin or be completed before the construction on the other, development of the other lots. And tonight you said that you'd like to have that kind of modified to be, that the building permits wouldn't be issued for the other buildings before the renovation is completed. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes.
So the only problem I have with that is that, building permits are the very last thing that are done on buildings like that, I believe. So I think the construction would be virtually complete on the two other dwellings before you
No,
would...
we would, not occupancy, building permit. So we wouldn't be able to begin framing the houses
Okay,
until we had the renovation done on the front house.
okay. And have you defined what you mean by renovation on the front house?
There'll be extensive interior renovations to be able to create or modify what's there now, which is a three-family, into a two-family. And exterior, we're talking about a new siding, new roof, probably new windows. We're talking about using hardy plank, trying to keep true to the original historic architectural features,
Yes.
and continue to work with the historic board to get some input to that. There's fluted corner boards, so we're looking at trying to maintain those kind of features.
Okay. If we go forward with this tonight, I'd like to see you meet with the neighbors, perhaps to sort of define what you mean by renovation, so that everybody's satisfied, because it seems like that's kind of a key link to this, right? Everybody wants that existing dwelling, that existing house to be renovated. And that's a very loose term that can mean anything from a paint job to some of the things you've just described. So I'd kind of like to see you work with the neighbors to define exactly what you mean there to everybody's satisfaction, if that's okay with you.
Yeah,
My name is Michael Harkins. I'm the applicant, Harkins Real Estate. It is our intention to completely renovate the existing structure to a two-family, so it's presentable with new siding, hardy plank, fluted columns on the side, redo the roof, to make it presentable, because I can't sell the dwellings behind it if that place isn't done and looking nice. So for me to sell the homes behind that house has got to look great from the street and from the backside. So it's our intention to do all winter long to work on that and have it completed.
So that's great, and I'm wondering if you'd be willing to meet with the
Oh, yes.
abutters to
Absolutely.
define exactly what you mean by renovation and make sure...
I've done that. I've talked to several of the butters already
Okay.
and told them that's what our intention
I
is.
just think looking to formalize it in some way. because
can do that.
We're basing the issuance of the building permits on the renovation, so it seems like we ought to have a measure for what renovation means. That's all I'm asking.
I plan on renovating it so I can sell it, and the faster I get it up and done and renovated and moved, that's my intention. It'll be
That
going
sounds
along.
like a yes, you're willing to do that, right?
Excuse me?
It sounds like a yes, you're willing to do that,
Yes,
right?
I am
Okay.
absolutely will.
And the other thing I had was the curbing. I can appreciate, first of all, am I right in reading that there'll only be curbing on one side of the road?
For purposes of drainage control, we're proposing to maintain the grades along the Sisters of Charity. So we're super elevating the road, if you will, pitching it to our side. So there's really no reason to have curb on that side. So we're proposing slope granite on on the left-hand side.
Yeah, the only problem with that is that, you know, I feel like there's no curb, and there's going to be a shortage of parking, that people are gonna be pulling up on the, off the road, you know, to park on that side of the street. Personally, I'd like to see vertical granite curb on both sides of the street. And, yeah, that might be a little more expensive, but if you wanna do it right, I think that's really what it should be. I think not only would it serve the purpose for drainage control, but it would make it a nice defined street, and it looks better. You know, so that's, you know, that would be my preference, if I get a vote. But certainly on both sides of the street, I think that we ought to consider curbing.
Well, one of the nuances here is that we are tight within the right-of-way. Currently, we propose the street at the pavement at 20. We've said tonight that would widen that to 22. Along that first segment on the right-hand side, the Sisters of Charity retaining wall and fence that defines their parking lot is within the right-of-way. So there's not really going to be more than a foot or two between where we're paving and that wall. And then the wall cuts out, and they have access into their lower platform through, again, the continuation of that fence. So our thinking there is to have them maintain that access and not have any impediment to that, so.
Okay, so that kind of leads me to my biggest concern, and that is the size of these lots. Am I correct in seeing that the land area per dwelling unit on the lots 1, 2, 3 in that order are 535, 962, and 544? Is that correct? I'm reading from the zoning chart you provided us. So land area per dwelling unit.
No, we have, on lot 1, there's 2,224 square feet per dwelling unit.
2,000, say it again?
2,224. And
Okay.
lots 2 and 3 are 4,500 square feet per dwelling unit. The reference to 538, 962, and 544 is usable open space per dwelling unit, and the requirements are 250 square feet. So on lot 1, we have 2 units, so they each have just a little bit in excess of 250 square feet. Lots 2 and 3, lot 2, the full 962 is for the 1 dwelling unit.
Yep.
So that's well in excess of the 250.
Gotcha.
And lot 3 is 544.
So you need a variance on lot 1, but it's already currently a 3-family, right? But it's got the-
Lot 1, yes, it's currently a 3-family. Under zoning, it requires 6,000 square feet, and it's proposed at 44, 48, so we need a variance there. And then lot area per dwelling unit, we need 2,500 square feet per dwelling unit, and as I said, we get 2,224, so we're just shy of that.
Yeah, right. Any other variances you're going to be
No,
applying for?
no. I've already applied, and we've continued the zoning board hearing to complete the action before this board, before we go there.
We do need special permits, though, because single-family use in that district, you need a special permit from the Board of Appeals.
You know, I really feel as though you know, the curbing will make a difference, a real difference in this street. I don't know how flexible you are in looking at the vertical curb there, but, you know, in my opinion, that slope curve, it may help a little bit in drainage, but it's just going to get driven on, and I think a nice, clean vertical curb would really make a big difference on the street. Is that something you can consider?
Yes, we'd be willing to go with vertical granite if the board would see to relax the VA4 requirement, which is a 6-inch by 18, and in lieu of a 5-inch, I think by 16. Both would be set in poured concrete. The installation methodology is the same. You dig a trench for the curbing, you pour concrete so it's locked in, and you backfill it. Then you put your pavement down. So it's just a little bit less expensive in the materials.
So in the width of it is 5-inch versus 6-inch, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And that would just be, again, seeing that this is a private way.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I don't have any further questions at this time, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Jenner. Mr. Fischett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's say the site certainly is a challenge, but I think we're presented with an opportunity to improve obviously the property that's on Pawtucket Street. And actually, as I walk the site, based on the proposed improvements to the right-of-way versus what's there right now, and when that was functioning as a 3-family, I think it'll probably be a safer situation based on what's being proposed versus what was there initially. If you could, Joe, if you could actually, if we go to the vertical granite curbing, could you explain how you would address the curbing at the end of Fall Street in order to allow for vehicles to drive up on that gravel area? Because the parking is important on this, and I don't want to compromise the additional parking at the end of Fall Street.
We would ask that the end be special, and that we continue to use the slope granite.
Use the slope granite at the end, okay, and I would...
Transition to that.
Yeah, I think that's, it's a trade-off that's worth having.
Additionally, we would also make a break in the curbing, transition curb down to allow access into the Sisters of Charity.
Okay. Now, also on the, and I have to say, I'm pleased with your solution for that strip behind Lot 3. I'm not really, it's something we like to avoid if we can at all costs, but I think it actually helps to accentuate the river views, the canal view, and the Lot 3 will have views of the canal and access, and this provides Lot 2, if you present it the way you have here this evening, with the stairway going down and the fencing, in order for the owner of Lot 3 not to see that as their own use, and to allow Lot 2, obviously a very structured way of going down to the conservation area, or the proposed drainage area. I think that's a relatively good solution for that situation. Certainly, also, and to Mr. Gendron's point, and I believe you had agreed to make this a condition in your response, that you would also be working with Steve Stoll of the Historic Board regarding the rehab or the renovation of the lot on Pawtucket Street. Is that correct?
Yes, we will.
Yeah, and I think that's probably going to have a large impact on how that ends up looking with the exterior of the building. So certainly that would, I would look to have that as a condition of the approval as well. So with that, I have to say, for having a tough site here, I think you did a good job coming back with some alternatives. To Mr. Gendron's point, I have to say, walking the site, Joe, what you were saying, I think that is the challenge. I'd rather have the road, the right-of-way 22 feet wide, but I understand the practicality of not having curbing on the right-hand side along the wall where the sisters are located. Actually, matter of fact, it'll look odd with the wall and then the granite curbing, and it would be different if we had a buffer in there, but I think obviously on the left-hand side that's needed to control the drainage system. I think it'll add, obviously from an aesthetic standpoint, it'll look a lot cleaner with the vertical granite curbing and keeping the functionality of the slope curbing at the end. I think it's a relatively good solution. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fischett. Mr. Lockhart?
Yes, I have a couple of questions and a comment. I just want to reemphasize the two things that Mr. Gendron brought up as being very important, and one was to meet with the abutters. When we opened this public hearing 2 meetings ago, I believe, there was a representative here from the Lowell Funeral Home that had some concerns. I don't remember specifically what they were, but it just,
If I may, his concerns, I think it was the funeral home that abutted to the west.
Yeah.
He wanted to know about a buffer zone between the lots, between his parking lot and the lots 1, 2, and 3, because he indicated, would there be a retaining wall, or there be a fence between the property? Because he says, indicates that they have cars parked back there during the hours of business. And I believe the reply was, there'd be some type of fence.
Well, it's a unique situation, and the funeral home parking lot is approximately 20 feet from the property line into their property. And there's, as you move back from Pawtucket, they've got a fairly large green space that abuts Pawtucket. I think it's about 60 feet. And that's where that area there will be level with ours, and there's no reason to buffer the two because the parking lot's there. Where their parking lot starts, and it runs the entire length of the property behind Lot 3, there's a vertical differential of about 8 feet between their parking lot and where our lots are going to be. That gets a little bit mired in that we're proposing 2 flat plateaus for our 2 backyards, and their parking lots are continual 8% slope. But essentially, it's an 8-foot differential. So really, putting fence down at our level doesn't serve any purpose to block. What we would propose is, as we said, we were going to put arborvitaes in the back of Lot 3 to define that, and we could do the same on Lot 2. And what you're looking to do is provide some privacy for the homeowner. I don't, for our homeowner, not so much buffering for the people that are using the parking lot. I think their point was just to separate the unlike uses. So we'd be happy to put additional arborvitae across the back of Lot 2 to serve that purpose.
okay, the point, it's very important to meet with the abutters just to make sure that any of those issues are cleared up.
We can
Which you've
continue.
indicated you're going.
Continue to work with them on those details as we begin construction.
And the second item that Steve brought up was the vertical granite curbing. I too would prefer to see that. I think what you've suggested here is workable. Maybe needs some review from the city engineer, I'm not sure. The only other question I had, and you did answer this for me, but I just want to recheck it, was the historical significance of that front house, the building itself. You have checked with Steve Stoll on that and his staff?
Yes, we did. I mean, our first meeting with staff, we invited Steve to the meeting. He sat in, and he said that it the house wasn't in the district. The property is in the Heritage Historic District because of the canal.
Yeah,
And that, under their regulations, they could take jurisdiction to anything that was done on the house, but they weren't inclined to. It also is it's either on the state register or the state inventory or the federal register, which doesn't have any jurisdiction within the city and the historic board to interact with, or requirements to interact with. So essentially, we don't have to go through any formal process with the historic board, but we recommit to work with them
Yeah.
to get,
Okay.
and the abutters to get input, to understand what we're proposing to do, and to help us, see it through to the vision that we think we have.
Okay, that clarification is all I was looking for. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we covered a lot here this evening. Just a couple of points, maybe confirming things that we've already discussed. On the no parking, the fire department apparently has indicated that they would accept the no parking zone to run just up to the hydrant, which will be moved, so that they just need to get to the hydrant, and they'll be satisfied with that as a safety condition. But there'll also be no parking in front of the gate that's bordering the abutting property owned by the sisters at this point. That's correct, right? That's my understanding? Okay. In terms of the 5-foot strip now that's running behind Lot 3, I know you mentioned that there'll be a white vinyl fence 4 feet in height and some plantings to define that lot line, so that Lot 2 will recognize that that 5 feet belongs to them. There'll be stairs going down to that to walk back to where the canal is. What is intended for that strip? Is it gonna be gravel, or how are they to maintain that property?
Just grass.
Yeah, because it'd be difficult to maintain anything other than some sort of a walkway. The gravel, the gravel area now that's, will be behind that sloped granite area at the end of Fall Street, is that going to be plowed as well? Right now, it's designated on the plan as existing edge of gravel, and, where you're proposing that sloped granite area there, but that's mountable so that vehicles can get back there. I'm just wondering if you're also intending to plow that gravel area back there, if we're gonna potentially use that for some overflow parking back there.
We had talked about the potential for it to be usable for parking. I guess it's up to the homeowners, where they have to hire the plow drivers, if parking is, if their needs are such. And certainly, I think they could do that. It is a right-of-way that they have, that the association will have rights to. So I think they could do that. They'd have the legal right to do that.
How long would it be from that area that's really the end of Fall Street to the end of that existing edge of gravel now, that area? To the left of your gray area.
Just from here to here?
Yeah, how long would that be?
That's about 60 feet.
I'm wondering if that shouldn't be plowed as well, or a portion of that plowed to, give some overflow parking, just as a suggestion. I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I think all the other questions have been covered. Thank you.
A couple of concerns I have is, I agree with the other board members that for this site to work, you're gonna need the vertical granite curbing. I mean, I know you indicate that it's a private way, but we're also here for approval not required. And if we don't approve the approval not required, then we have to give you a subdivision. If we give you a subdivision, then you have to have it, and you have to have the width of the street. So if we're going to accept it as an approval not required, then I think we can request that what we think would make an approval not required, and therefore go along with the vertical granite. I mean, if we look at the plan as a whole, when we had all the people who came in and spoke at the previous meeting, every person who spoke had concerns on how tight the lot is. We had the people who came in, the gentleman who spoke in favor, who does the work for the Sisters of Charity. They were concerned how tight it was. Lots 2 and 3, 11 feet total between them. They concerns, I think, about some of the driveway issues that I believe you addressed. The sister herself was concerned on how crowded the lot was. Mr. O'Donnell indicated it was a nice area, it's a challenging neighborhood, and his concerns were how tight it would be in the neighborhood. The gentleman from the funeral home indicated how thought he was and how tight it was for the lots in the neighborhood. I think it was the Romanowski woman who indicated how tight it was in the neighborhood. And then, I mean, what we're looking for you're looking for a variance for the lot area. You need 6,000. You have 448, 450, 4,500 and 4,500. So all 3 lots are undersized. You're looking for the lot area dwelling. 2 of them meet it, the other one doesn't. And I think the vertical granite is, I think if we're gonna approve an approval not required, I think we should definitely have it. Without the vertical granite, then I don't think we should even approve the approval not required, because it doesn't meet the criteria as us to say that the street's fine, but we're not giving you the criteria that the street says it should be what we should approve. So I think a lot of that goes to whether we give you the approval not required. If you don't have the approval not required, then I think then you can't get any of those back lots, and therefore we can't even give you a special permit, or we can't give you a site plan. So, I mean, I think you're asking for a lot on this site. I mean, the 2 back lots are definitely undersized. Number 3 lot indicated with that lot configuration is something that the city has frowned upon, is something that we've taken criticism as a board for allowing lots to be built like that from the council, and also from the Division of Planning and Development for allowing us to create lots of that nature to meet that type of criteria of lots. It's indicated, it's very tight up there. The question was, I asked last meeting, could you do it with just the 1 lot in the back? And the answer was, well, there's financial constraints. And we said, well, we all have financial constraints, but that's not one of the criteria that the planning board has to consider. The question was, by fixing up the front house, it'd make it look a lot nicer. Everybody agrees with that. But what do we give up to go ahead and say, okay, we're gonna waive the lot area, we're gonna waive the dwelling unit, and now we're gonna waive vertical granite curbing, so we're waiving the size of the lot, we're waiving the dwelling units, we're waiving the street. The only good thing that I think I heard tonight was basically that you pick up some parking on that Fall Street, because that was a big concern of all the neighbors who came in and spoke at the last meeting. They also indicated how busy Pawtucket Street is, and I was there yesterday morning at 11 o'clock, and I had to park in the O'Donnell Funeral Home to walk across the street, because it was tough parking on Pawtucket Street. I mean, there was a lot of traffic at 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning. So I think a lot of it to ask, I mean, the vertical granite, I think, is a minimum of what we should request, but I think a lot of the criteria that we're asking for is, I think, you're putting a real lot on that site, and I think 3 of them is way too much on the side of that side. I think it's too crowded. And those are the only comments I have. Thank you. At this point in time, I'll open it to any of the boards have any further comments.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
So, I agree with the comments of the chairman regarding the density in this spot. Certainly, this site becomes a lot more desirable if you could do one, one nice dwelling back there. Is that something that, I know there's a financial impact here, but it is a tight lot. Chairman raises a lot of good points about, the shape of that lot, despite the fact that it does give Lot 2 access to the canal. It still kind of get that Oklahoma shape to the lot. Seems to me that, a single unit back there would certainly be a lot more appealing. Is that something you've considered? Is it out of the question?
Yeah, we've looked at it, and part of the problem is the renovation of the existing house and the potential to, what is that unit worth, and how do you recoup that, plus the land value. The bottom line is that, yes, we understand it appears to be tight, but the two lower lots meet zoning. The zoning in that district is 4,500 square feet. The setbacks are such that, we meet those setbacks. We provide the minimum number of parking spaces for them. We meet the frontage requirements. We feel we've answered the concerns, we've provided the responses, and tonight we're committing to doing the vertical granite curbing, and that we can move forward knowing that those concerns have been answered.
You do throw the existing dwelling out of zoning with regard to the land area per dwelling unit.
We understand that, but it's, currently it's a three-family. We're looking at removing a section of the building. We're retaining the historic main building and converting that to a two-family.
Mm-hmm. I understand that, yeah. Still creates a very tight situation. I have some real concerns about the site. I appreciate the fact that you were willing to go to vertical granite curbing, but I still have some concerns about the density in the area. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, Mr. Fischett.
just, and I understand obviously the challenge of the site, and certainly some of the things that, Mr. Chairman, you've pointed out, and a big concern was the parking. I think what was presented here this evening is a very workable solution for the parking on the site. I understand the two lots, and by doing this, the front lot is non-conforming by 52 square feet. And I did, walk the neighborhood as I try to look at the neighborhood character. It's the TMU zone, understanding that the streets across, residential streets across from there, Gage Street, Dane Street, Whiting Street. Gage Street is actually 16 feet wide. There's 10 homes on there. Dane Street, 12, they all look like multifamilies, 20 feet wide. Looking at the lot sizes, I'm aware of many of the homes that are right across from what was St. Joseph's Hospital. The lots are actually smaller than this here, that what's being proposed. I know when we did an existing conditions analysis for the master plan and the rezoning, is how we really directed the zoning to TMU. If we look at the direct abutters, really what we would be proposing to meet the neighborhood characters to turn the front property into a funeral home to meet the neighborhood character. I think, I certainly appreciate the challenge with the site. I too, in looking at the neighborhood character special permit, is part of it is a very tough criteria. Are you enhancing the neighborhood? And I looked at that, and looking at this site, looking at the condition of that existing structure with what's behind there, that Fall Street, the deplorable condition that's in right now, and I look at the master plan's intention to try to take advantage of the river views and the waterfront. This is an attempt to try to do that with this site based on the current zoning of the TMU. It's not ideal. I think everybody would like to see a single-family home on as large a lot as possible. When you look at what's around it, the zoning that's in place, and again, the challenge of that odd lot in the Lot 2, I don't think is ideal. I think given the setting, accessing the views of the canal and the open space in the back, or should I say the proposed draining easement area in the vegetated area, I think at least provides some sort of use to that. It is not the ideal situation. When you see that plopped in the center of a residential neighborhood, just to make the achieve the square footage, I think that that's completely unacceptable, and I think this is just barely makes it acceptable because of what is at the end of that strip and how you can actually make it look like it's a usable part of the property. So, again, it's a challenge. I do have a question to Joe, and I did have a concern at the last meeting, was the retaining walls and the fencing that's going to be used on those retaining walls, because that can be the difference between this looking like estate-type smaller lots and homes versus, as I think I used the term, a concentration camp. I mean, it can look like walls with chain link fences on top that I don't think would look very appealing. So I'm just curious if you had discussions about how you were going to address that and what material you were going to use.
We're proposing the 4-foot vinyl fencing, not chain link. So we'll make that change or accept that as a
So
condition.
on the, not just the strip going to the back, but also on the tiered,
Between the lots.
between the lots, okay.
Right now, we feel that the wall between 1 and 2, which partly exists now, that'll be the biggest grade change, as we can't do much with the existing house. We've got to deal with the grades around that as it plays. Between 1 and 2, the wall's going to be in the range of 4 to 5 feet, and we'll have the white vinyl fence that'll define the separation between the lots. We took a closer look at the wall that divides the Lot 3 usable open space from the drainage easement, and we feel that one won't need a fence, okay, because the differential's not not large enough. So.
All right, thank you. Well, I agree, it's a challenging site. Certainly, taking it as an opportunity to at least make it a bit more aesthetically pleasing on Pawtucket Street and utilizing that back site. I agree, it's not ideal, but I think, from my opinion, I think we've come up with a viable option for what was proposed initially. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fischett. Anybody else have any further comments?
Just have
Mr. Lockhart?
a comment on what the chairman has observed here on the plan. Whenever you see, we have, as a board, been criticized for creating odd-shaped lots just to get square footage to come up with enough square footage for a house. And that strip across the back is, indicative of the fact that there really isn't enough room here for what you have. I mean, it's just, there's just not enough room. You even said if you tried to put that area between the two houses, you'd squeeze down the lot far enough where you really couldn't do it properly.
Well, it's important to look at what we're proposing for homes. We understand we need the neighborhood special permit. We're now subject to the new special permit for the reduced frontage, which looks to try to have input into these A&R situations on what's being built, the character of the homes that are being built, and how that fits into the neighborhood. And we've made a commitment to proactively do that. We applied for this special permit before the city council had even codified the ordinance. But right from the very start, we understood that desire. We understood that desire and put the details to the homes that we felt were appropriate. And when I say that, we looked at it, I go back to the building envelope that we're trying to attain and see that is more important, to maintain the building envelope, to see through the vision of the houses that we want to build there, and the character that we want to put there. And we could easily change that and narrow up the houses and make the lots more uniform and make them comply. while not having that tail. But we don't think it serves the purpose. We think the purpose is better served by looking at the homes that we're proposing, by looking at the usable open space that we're providing well in excess of the requirements. The city has zoning. Yes, this is probably the smallest lots that are allowed in the city as far as zoning. But the requirements are for 4,500 square feet. The requirements are for 250 square feet of usable open space. And we in lot 3, we almost quadruple that requirement. And lot 2, we double it, and knowing that on lot 3, we could use the lower plateau, that's the drainage easement, as more usable open space, and demonstrate to the board that, that lot 3's open space is quadruple the requirements. So whenever we're faced with a client coming with a piece of property, we look to the tools that you and the city have put forth to say what is appropriate, what is required. You say 4,500 square feet. You say that it needs to be 8% or less in slope. So you say that you need 250 square feet of usable open space. You define that open space, that each dimension of the open space has to be a minimum of 15 feet wide, and it can't be within 5 feet of the property line. It's very detailed in what you've put forth, and that the planning staff has worked hard at putting forth from a zoning ordinance, knowing that 4,500 square feet is a small area to work with it. We take that, we primarily start with the building envelope and say, what do we want to build here? And how do we fit within those confines with regards to meeting all of those requirements? Meeting the garage setback has to be 21 feet, so you need to hide the garage. You need to get the 2 parking spaces in there. There's another percentage of open space in the front yard that needs to be, I think 75% of the front yard needs to be open, so you can't just pave your front yard. All of these very detailed nuances within your zoning ordinance defines for us what is acceptable, and that's what we did here. Yes, it's tight. Yes, it goes right to some of those minimums, but at the same time, we as I said, exceed by a large amount some of the requirements that speak to the quality of life for the homeowner that's going to have to live here, and I know that's paramount in this board's mind with regards to the review of these. We've looked at that. And we've presented a plan that we think works for the homeowner, ultimately for the homeowners.
Yeah, it is tight. And I think what you've done here along that strip is very creative, and it does open up that area back there for that particular house. Just an observation, it's very, very dense. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Attorney Claremont, any further questions?
I just don't want to beat it to death, but the gate that's in front of the sister's property that we're, not parking in front of, that's not an area they access frequently. That's just if they need to get to the back of the property. Is that correct?
That was our understanding, yes.
Right.
That's our understanding. I just wanted that right.
Okay. Thank you.
Does Division of Planning and Development have any comments? I know we received several in the packet. Anything they want to further comment on?
There was one clarification that I wanted to make, and excuse me, I apologize, I couldn't get formal comments from the fire department regarding their ability to have flexibility in what they would allow for parking and movement of the hydrant. Mr. Pesnola is correct in that they said the hydrant could be moved so long as it was within 100 feet of the lowest structure as proposed. They've met that requirement, and it appears that the parking as proposed would meet the general access requirement. But I wanted to clarify that they said they would need an 18-foot unimpeded access along the front of the houses. I believe that that has been satisfied from what they have explained as to their realignment of the no parking areas and parking areas, but I just wanted to clearly state that they will need 18 feet of access along the fronts of the houses.
What I'd suggest, Mr. Chairman, is, once this is put together in final form, is that be submitted to the fire department for their final approval. Let them take a look at it and give us the final approval, because we can't even approve the A&R without their approval, so we're gonna need that.
Just to go back, so is it clear, Joe, that you're saying that the applicant now would do the vertical VA4 all the way down on one side of the street?
No, the 5-inch.
5-inch.
I know, but he said 5, planning and development is requesting 4. What we request on a public way is the 4, right? Isn't that planning and development requested that we do the 4?
We had requested VA4 as the standard for subdivision.
But
Well, yes.
that's 6-inch, right, what you're talking about? And what they're suggesting is the 5-inch.
Yes, from the specific concerns that I had enumerated for stormwater control and maintenance costs, the 5-inch as proposed would satisfy that. I can't speak to the other concerns that the board has raised regarding the general aesthetics and other elements that can be satisfied with the VA4 granite.
So what are you requesting you would do in the vertical? I know it's been raised by everybody.
We are committed to doing the vertical granite. We would just ask that we'll be allowed to do the,
5-inch.
not to do the VA4 type curb, which is, VA4 is a terminology used by Mass Highway, and it has to do with the thickness of the curb, the cut of the curb, and the total height of the curb. You only have 6 inches that shows, and we're proposing to show 6 inches, but the VA4 goes down, I think, 18 inches. When the 5-inch is narrower, and it goes down, I think, 16 inches. It's still set in concrete, they're still just as solid, so it's a matter of cost. I think the city would want the VA4 whenever you use it up in public ways for continuity, for consistency, for replaceability, and so forth. But where this is a private way, we think that all of the, as Mr. Thomas said, all the drainage and maintenance are satisfied with the 5-inch. So yes, we will do vertical granite.
But not the VA4.
We'd like to do the 5-inch. We'll leave it to the board. If the board conditions VA4, then I guess we're putting in VA4. We just don't, for the reasons I enumerated, we think it's suitable.
Any further questions, comments from the board?
Excuse me, Chairman, for
Yes.
our sake, with the understanding of the discussion, is this the curbing for one side or both sides of the street?
I think what they're talking about now is the one side, correct? Because I think what his discussion was indicating that they're talking about putting the curbing in
One side.
on the left side, because I believe what he said on the right side is where the fence is now from the sisters is in the right of way. And so he's saying that the slope would go towards the new construction, and therefore they're looking for the vertical granite in front of the new construction. Am I correct?
I think Mr. Gendron was looking at both sides from the standpoint of aesthetics and really establishing the roadway. When I conferred with client, that we committed that we could do that. I think Mr. Frechette was talking about one side, so we'd leave it up to the board. We're willing to do it, and that's why I said we could do it on the right-hand side. We could work within with the grades. We would drop the curb in the way of the access to the Sisters of Charity, transition curbing. We would still pitch the road left to right, so there really wouldn't be a need for that curb from the standpoint of drainage and so forth. It would merely be an aesthetic thing, so that when you drove in the road, there was, it was clearly established as a roadway.
Mr. Chairman, if my biggest
absolutely.
concern, if I could ask, my concern was we lose some of the width of the right-of-way. So if I could get clarification from Mr. Pesnola and that's my biggest concern, because I agree, I think aesthetically it would look better, but I honestly believe in this case, I'd rather have a little bit more road width, have the granite curbing on the one side. So if I, I'd like to get a clarification as to the effect of having the granite curbing on the right-hand side as well. Because, again, I've walked that side enough, I don't see where that's going to add from a functionality standpoint, and I'm just concerned about losing some road width. So-
Yes, it would probably inhibit us from being able to extend the road to the right as much as possible, again, because the Sisters of Charity retaining wall is within the right-of-way, so we have to work with that. We have to make an excavation to put the curbing in, when we might not have to make as deep an excavation to put the pavement down. So for all of those reasons, it's going to pull us away from that.
Because Mr. Chairman, if I walked Gage Street and Whiting Street, and matter of fact, if there was curbing on where I was looking at you, it would be a real problem. I mean, the pavement ran right to the what would be the right-of-way. So I think by having the vertical granite curbing, I think will obviously add from the aesthetics. I think functionality, I think the vertical granite curbing is going to provide the longevity as far as the concern for the city having to maintain the bituminous curbing, which I think we all agree is the life expectancy of that is not the same as granite curbing. So that's my biggest concern, and I would be looking for the curbing on the left-hand side.
Mr. Gentleman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is and I can appreciate what you're saying. You've articulated a nice case on this. However, and what you've proposed does meet most of the zoning requirements. However, there's no lots there now. There's no lots. That's why you're here. We need to divide this so that you can do that. And my sense is, and I have walked the site as well, that we're just trying to jam too much into this site. I feel like, this 4-foot, 5-foot strip that goes along the back of Lot 3, I think that's just going to become overgrown and not really be, usable land for Lot 2, which puts the size of that lot into question. I feel like, we're going to have 4 dwellings now on this very small and narrow street. I think parking is going to become an issue, in spite of the fact that, taking steps to deal with it. I just feel as though we're trying to push too much into this lot. I think a single dwelling would be a lot better, but it's a very difficult balance. But I feel as though we're just trying to push too much onto this lot. That's my feeling on it.
Any further comments from the board members? If not, entertain a motion. Basically, we do need 2 motions because there are requests. They're looking for a site plan and a special permit.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, I guess, on the special permit initially to approve with conditions. And the conditions I'd suggest is, 1, that there be no parking on both sides of the street up to the fire hydrant is relocated and in front of the gate to the abutting property, and ask that the fire department review and approve that plan. Secondly, that the Lot 1 renovations be completed and an occupancy permit issued before obtaining building permits for Lots 2 and 3, with the understanding that the site work and the grading, et cetera, involving Lots 2 and 3 will go on in the interim. 3 would be the use of the 5-inch vertical granite curbing on the house side of the road, and the slope granite at the end of the pavement. 4 would be the engineer's review of the drainage to ensure no runoff to the abutting properties. Understanding the engineer has not yet reviewed that, so would want the engineer to review the drainage to ensure no runoff to the abutting properties. 5 would be the use of a 5-foot vinyl fence with plantings behind Lot 3 to define the boundary, and the use of the vinyl fencing for all fencing on the plan. 6, submit the tree planting plan to the DPD for approval. 7 would be work with Lowell Historic Board on the architectural details of the development. 8 would be to allow the city to tow any vehicle parked in the no parking areas. I know that they probably are allowed to, but this being a private way, I think it'd be worth our while to put that in as a condition that the city is allowed to tow any vehicle parked in the no parking area. And then lastly, that the gravel area behind Fall Street be plowed if overflow parking becomes a necessity. It may not be, but if it does, I'd like to keep that open as an opportunity for some overflow parking.
I think we said, when we're talking about the fence, Joe, I think we said 4 foot, not 5. Vinyl
I
fence.
thought I said 4-foot vinyl fence.
I think we said
Yeah.
4 foot.
If I said 5, I meant 4. And
There's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion?
I'd like to add, to work with the abutters.
on,
To your list.
that's fine, but is there something specific that?
Oh, just work with the abutters. No, nothing specific, but
Regarding the
there were a
renovation.
number of people that came here and expressed concerns. They should be addressed.
Yeah, I think that's fine with me. I mean, there's some indication there that you're going to continue to work with the abutters on the plan, so.
Right, and I'll second the motion.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Against?
No.
I vote no. So we have 3 in favor, 2 against, so the special permit does not pass. Now we move on to the site plan.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve with the same conditions as a special permit.
Motion's made.
And seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right?
Any opposition?
No.
I vote no, so the site plan is approved. Do we have to vote on the A and R?
I believe we do.
Okay.
So I'd make a motion to
Oh,
approve.
Sorry, Member Claremont, actually, we do not have an official A&R submission. It's preliminary at this time. Is our understanding that the applicant wishes to wait until they receive ZBA variances before submitting an A&R so that they can actually list them as buildable lots at that time?
So that's not before us?
Not
At
before.
the moment, our understanding is we still have a preliminary plan at this time.
The advertisement calls for the A and R
Yeah.
that we read into the record in the last 2 meetings.
Attorney Flood, could you address that? Is that not pending then at this point?
We would look to table that item because the A&R is dependent on the action by the zoning board.
Okay. So no action on the A and R at this point?
But the clock is not running because we haven't submitted a formal A&R, which would start the 21 days.
Okay, so we just had the 2 votes, and we took the 2 votes, so we're all set. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Excuse me, Chairman, to come to our attention, there should be one more vote as well on the frontage reduction request for the, one additional special permit, excuse me,
Okay.
to reduce.
Frontage reduction.
I'll make that motion as well to approve the frontage reduction special permit with the same conditions.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Against?
No.
I vote no, so the matter is 3 in favor, 2 against, so that special permit is denied. Thank you. Moving along on the agenda, the next matter is new business for pre-application review, 65 Harvard Street. The following individuals has requested the planning board to provide a preliminary review of their proposed product at the address listed above. This is not a public hearing. The planning board will render no decision related to the site plan review, nor guarantees any future decision, whether positive or negative, on any project that receives pre-application review. The project is located at 65 Harvard Street. The applicant project is a subdivision of a lot with an existing building to create a new building lot with approximately 11,000 square feet and 75 feet of frontage, and construction of a new single-family residence building. The zoning is suburban, single-family, and required a planning board review, special permit for the frontage reduction under section 5.117. May we get a case for the applicant, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, James Flood, 549 Roger Street, representing Michael Harkins. Mr. Harkins entered into a purchase and sale agreement to buy this property in August of this year, at which time the property was zoned TSF, which was a traditional single-family zone, which required 7,000 square feet and 55 feet of frontage. And I think you're all aware that recently the City Council passed a new zoning ordinance that's changed this property to SSF, suburban single-family, requiring 10,000 square feet of frontage, and the most recent change also increased the frontage to 90 feet with the understanding that they could request a special permit to reduce it by 15 feet. In addition, the neighborhood is also within now a historic district, so anything that has to be built, anything that intends to be built there has to go through the Historic Commission. So we have submitted a request for a special permit to reduce the frontage on one lot down to 85 feet from 90, the other lot down to 75 feet from 90, and then there's a third parcel, B1, which is a small piece which we intend to convey to the next door neighbor. As you can see, the existing lot contains almost 12,000 square feet. The new lot is 10,758, and the other one is 1,450. So we wanted to present it to you to see if there's any additional comments or anything that you could add to this. It is our feeling that the proposed new home that we are proposing conforms with the neighborhood character in the area, and the size of the lots also conforms with what is up in that area. So we just wanted to bring it in. It is scheduled to come back to this board on November 7th.
So would you say there's a parcel B1?
E1, correct, yeah.
So that's-
This small piece to be conveyed to the
Neighbors to the
abutting
left.
neighbor, on the left, right. The plan, I don't know that you people saw the building plan, but we have initially presented to the Historic Commission, and I did say it's a good start, so, yeah, that's it. Oh, you do have it, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just
Yes,
a
Mr. Fischetti.
question, Attorney Flood. Based on the diagram of the parking layout, I'm assuming that existing structure is going to stay as some sort of a group home?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yep.
So basically what you need is just to reduce the joint funding because of the new zoning amendment.
Correct, yes, yep.
Because if not, you'd have it by right.
Excuse me?
If you didn't have that new zoning, you'd have it by right?
By right, absolutely. I mean, back when he entered the purchase and sale agreement, all that was required was 55 feet of frontage. Now it's up to 90 in a couple of months, so, yeah, that's why we're here.
How is the home being used now?
It's Bridgewell, it's a group home.
It is.
The existing home, right, yes.
How is the parking accommodated presently? Or what are the parking?
There's not as much parking there as we show on the plan.
No, I know that.
Yeah.
But what happens to the cars that are there now, just street parking?
I guess so. I mean, we're not dealing with them. So. They're selling. Bridgewell is selling.
Yeah, is that an issue?
Is that what?
Is that an issue in the neighborhood, the parking?
I don't know, but that's why we provided, I think, 13 spots in there for the new.
I just think, all that parking that's visible from Harvard Street is totally out of character with the neighborhood, and it just doesn't, it doesn't somehow, got to try to soften that or whatever, eliminate it.
Mr. Chairman, just to Attorney Flood, right now, there are some large hedges along that parking on that lot. Will they come down? Is that going to be,
Where are they located?
well, where the parking is delineated for the existing structure? Right now, if you look at that, there's hedges along here, and I'm just wondering, is that coming down with the creation of the new lot? And would you be putting some additional plantings? Because it doesn't look like there's a very large
Wanna
buffer
talk to it?
between.
All right. Dean will answer that.
Hi, my name's Dean Jenkins, 244 Fairmount Street, representing Jayco Construction that's going to be hired by Mr. Harkins if this is successful. Just to answer your question, Jerry, there's some, they actually go all the way around the property. There's a lot, and we're going to try to keep as many of those on site, actually, to either use as a buffer. But to answer your question originally, we're going to try to figure out how to take them, when we have to, take them and move them. What we're thinking about doing is moving them more to the front of the property as it pertains to the group home, so that it might give some buffer on that driveway. And the reality of the driveway that you're seeing on there shows that we have to have a certain amount of parking spaces to be shown on that plan. But the intention of that group home, as we understand it, is to have a reduced number of people in there versus what we're showing for the parking. But I think for the amount of bedrooms in there, there's something that says we have to show per bedroom the amount of parking that potentially could be there. So we're going to try to use those big shrubs, if we can, in areas to buffer. They're huge. They're very, very large. So we're hoping that maybe we can use them and really mature, and hopefully we're trying to save them to put them in the front of the proposed house as well, because obviously some of the homes in that area are landscaped pretty nicely, and we're going to try to see how much of it we can keep, but there's no guarantees that we can. They're going to have to be uplifted and removed and replanted. So it's a difficult task. They're large, but we will try. Also, we met with the neighbors to go over this. I know that's an important aspect of the requirements under the special permit and so forth, in the essence of what was what's expected of people that do business in the city and some of these. And we got a lot of input from a lot of the neighbors, both positive and negative. We're working with the historic board. We had talked to Steve Stoll originally, so we put a plan in place so that when we talk to the neighbors, we'd be able to speak to something. But we're bound to go to that board, but we're also looking for the input from people as it pertains to the style of home, so that it fits in the character of that neighborhood as well. But we do have large trees. So also there's some giant pine trees, and those, without question, have to come down.
How did you arrive at the number of parking spots that are shown on the plan? There are employees there, and
I think,
breakdown,
no, well, it didn't have to do with employees in this case. I think the ordinance, the zoning reads as it pertains to this type of establishment is based upon bedrooms. So the amount of bedrooms that you have within the home, You have to have, I think in this case, I'm going to let my attorney deal with that, or Mr. Flood deal with that for Michael Harkins. I think it's 2 per bedroom under these.
Are there employees there? I mean,
There should not be, there will not be any employees on site other than to visit. That's not, it's not going to be like Bridgewell where they had full-time staff with vans coming in
Yeah,
and
all right,
out
I'm
and
just
so
trying to
forth
get a
and so
feel
on.
for
It's a different entity entirely that's going to be going in there, and they are going to be self-sufficient in terms of their use of that building.
are there any kind of deliveries by van or
There
anything?
shouldn't be, no.
Nothing. Okay.
Any other questions? Any board members have any questions? Anybody else?
The buildings that remain on the new Lot 1, they're pre-existing, non-conforming as it relates to setbacks and whatnot. You won't need any variances on that property.
No.
The lot size and all that will be sufficient to
Only
maintain
the,
that
only the new frontage requirement.
Thank you.
Anybody else who's here have any comments on this project? It's not a public hearing, but if anybody's here, we'd be more than happy to entertain any questions or thoughts or anything. Anybody else want to speak in regards to this matter? It will be coming in, as indicated before us, for the public hearing on November 7th? Okay. Yes, just give me name and address for the record,
Hi.
please.
My name is Catherine Lake. I live at 43 Nicolette Street, which is on the corner of Harvard and Nicolette Street. And I have concerns because with the new ordinances on the sizes of lots and the frontage and so forth, and trying to conform to a more historic area, my house is a historic house, and I think that the house that is going to be more of a residential home versus a group home is going to now have no yard, and the saleability of the house, if it was ever to be converted to a house versus a group home / residential home for people that are dwelling there as a family for the purposes of being rehabilitated. To me, we're taking a beautiful property with a house that's probably upwards of 5,000 square feet and just basically turning the whole entire lot into a parking lot. And then there's really no place for the residents to go. There's no yard. There's just nothing. And I just think that we've already have a problem in the neighborhood with the value of our houses. My house, I've put tremendous amount of money into it and renovating it completely, trying to stay within the historic constraints and have made it a beautiful home. There's many beautiful homes in that area, and we have had trouble with a couple of houses that were vacant for a while. This house has been vacant for a while. I am glad that there is going to be someone dwelling in it, but I just feel as if we have all historic homes in that area, and putting a new home is going to completely change the flavor of the neighborhood.
Thank you. Anybody else want to say anything on this project?
Ken Wallace, 95 Harvard Street. We're the immediate abutter. And first of all, I appreciate the changes the city made that give us a seat at the table to discuss this. I also appreciate that Mr. Harkins came to us and was willing to meet with the neighbors, and we hosted all of the neighbors at my house last week, and Michael presented his proposal for the home he would build, and the people from Lowell House explained the program that they're going to have, both of whom I think did a very good job. I think we're going to be more comfortable with the Lowell House situation as opposed to the previous occupants. There's not going to be any programs there. It's going to be a group of women who have gone through some programs and are finally going on their own, and I think the neighbors were relatively comfortable with that. As the immediate abutter, I would like to see something built on that lot now. I like the plan as it's described, because I think we've lived with a lot of questions of what's going to happen to that open lot. I would rather see nothing happen. It's a beautiful home, it's a beautiful lot, but that's not reality. Something's going to happen there. I happen to like the plan Michael's presenting. We could live with that. We're not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to the Lowell House plan. I'd like the thing settled. I don't want to wonder the next 5 years what's going to happen on that lot. Something eventually will. I could live with what they're proposing, as long as Michael continues to work with the neighbors and builds under the historic requirements. I would be a lot more comfortable. He's willing to work with us. He's willing to sell me a strip of land as an additional buffer, and we could use that for some off-street parking. The current big house, the 65 Harvard, actually does have a little more land than I originally looked at, and the Lowell House folks seem to be comfortable with the plan. So we're not going to object to either part of this proposal, as long as Michael continues to work with us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else have any comments on this project? Okay, well, thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. My apology. I put my head down to look
That's
at
all
my
right.
notes.
Michelle Todd, 45 Harvard Street. And I would just like to say that I agree with the first woman who's spoken today, that the Lowell House, the existing structure, they don't have a yard if their proposed lot's going to be the way that they've cut it up. They mostly, it is pavement and it is parking lots, and for quality of life, you do need green space, and there seems to be really limited on that. And if I could keep the neighborhood the way it is now, that's what I would vote for.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, so I think you said, Attorney Flood, that it's scheduled for November 7th for public hearing? Yes. They haven't advertised yet?
That's correct. Advertisements will go out at the end of this week and will be published by the end of this week.
All right, so we're due back here November 7th? Yep. For a public hearing. Okay, thank you.
It's not here. We did sign something.
Wonder what walls are the fake. He's getting a piece on you. Right? He said he would, I guess. He comes in and says, we're getting prices right.
Okay, what do we got here?
Moving along on the agenda, we have notices from budding towns. Entertain a motion to place on file.
So moved.
Motion's made. Second, all in favor, say aye. Okay. We have ZBA notices. These are matters that are on for a zoning board of appeals public hearing on October 24th, 2011. And this will be held here in the City Council chambers. One of the matters is on the old business that we didn't vote on before, which was for 279 Pawtucket Street, which we voted on tonight. So we already took action on that. The other matters would be new business. We have a special permit. Applicant is Kevin Murphy Esquire. The property is located at 81 Bridge Street. The zoning is to convert a retrofit commercial condominiums into a day habilitation center pursuant to Article 12. We did receive that on this evening.
That's in the,
So this needs a special permit, I believe, because of the zone it's in. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's a use special permit.
So it's a use special permit, okay.
And the proposal is to take majority of the building. It's 16 condos currently in the Napping building. On Bridge Street. They're proposing to take, I think, all except for one. And
Take all but what?
all the condo spaces except for one. The one that's currently in use. The rest, I believe, are vacant. So it'll take up most of the entire building.
I'll ask the question, what is a day habilitation center?
That's a very good question. I've had it described to me. It's essentially a new concept in the medical field, and it's basically they provide health care services during the day for people with certain disabilities, and they can include therapy, physical therapy, emotional therapy, and then there's space for them to participate in other kinds of just kind of activities. It's not necessarily a daycare per se, and it's not necessarily completely all medical uses. It kind of is a hybrid of each. So that's why it's under other medical uses in the zoning.
Now, are they
because it's actually
affiliated
quite new.
with a local hospital, or are they just?
No, it's a
Privately owned commercial.
privately owned,
Yeah.
Yeah,
no affiliation.
that's what I,
He's got a little narrative attached there with some additional information.
I really didn't get a chance to read it.
I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, I think something like this, maybe it'd benefit from some neighborhood input, to feel what the community would feel, how it'd be acceptable in that area, for the special permit, how would it flow, what, the avenue is, so I don't know what the board's feeling is, whether we feel we should, something that could be brought up at, obviously the ZBA would have the neighborhood input to get for the special permit, and I think without the communication of the neighbors, it's a kind of a tough recommendation for us to make a recommend for. So therefore, I'd say at this point in time, that we make no recommendation due to the fact that, I think the public input would be very important for a special permit of this nature.
I would make that in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
and I'll second.
Yeah.
All right, I'll form that in form of a motion, and it's been, motion made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
This is strictly relating to use, so this won't come before us for any reason, right? This is
That's correct.
just related to the use.
All the work is entirely within the
It
building.
might impact parking and stuff around there.
Pardon me?
It might impact parking and,
Yeah, so there's, my understanding is that there is an agreement in their purchase and sale for a certain part of the existing parking lot to provide parking for that building. The zoning code allows them to use, since it is a commercial use in the downtown mixed use, the adjacent parking garage for that. But my understanding is there's a certain number, I can't recall off the top of my head, but there's, a number of parkings that we provided as part of the purchase.
Okay, the next matter is for a special permit for signs. It is Batten Brothers Sign, 980 Chelmsford Street. And then it's to amend previously approved internally illumination signage. So they want to amend what's been approved to them already for the sign. Has this been seen by the design planner as of yet, or is this something that they're still working on?
We've had a preliminary review. Basically, what they're proposing is a reduction in size of the signage that they have in place now. It's kind of an upgrade, or update, I should say, of their logo. The wall sign that's going on the building will include a signage for Dunkin' Donuts. So the general feeling is that this is, as far as signage proposals go, a good one. It's in the right district, right place, and it's a reduction in size. So I don't suspect there'll be any negative comments from the department on this one.
So they're going to reduce the sign then, right?
reduce the
Yes.
size.
the signage.
So would they have it was approved before, and now they're asking for a smaller one?
Just, I guess, yeah, it's the unique situation where they're changing the logo, and updating of the
So, I mean,
logo.
They got approval before, now they're asking for a smaller sign, so usually there's less resistance to go smaller than big, most of the time. So, yeah, so,
Can you recommend color selection?
like, them by corporate, yeah.
Is this the
It's
final?
a special permit
this
for
the final
internal illumination.
On
Yeah,
the
well,
right?
it's worth asking. That might be a printing error, actually. A lot of times you get a color that comes out wrong,
Oh,
but
yeah,
yes,
that's
with a special permit,
Yeah, I've never
We will
seen a
frequently-
Dunkin' Donuts sign.
Yeah, I know, I'm hoping that's a
I don't think
printing
that would
error.
fly with them.
yeah, that's kind of a day glow. It's not typically Dunkin' Donuts, but that's something that we would address with a special permit.
I'll make a motion to approve. Recommendation? The
Yeah.
fact that they're reducing the signage that was approved before.
Aaron, we've already referred this to the chief planner.
Yeah,
regarding signs.
that's correct. The design planner will be
It's already
writing
reviewed.
comments on this
So they got-
at some point. We don't have them formally yet, but it will be.
Okay.
What they're saying is they approved it before, but bigger sign, now they're coming back and asking for a smaller one.
Small one,
Right.
yeah,
So it was approved for the bigger, now he's saying the sign plan is okay with the smaller one.
yeah. I'll second that,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Any other further comments from board members or anybody? I'll start with Aaron, or any comments on Craig, anything?
I think as you know, the 7th coming up will be at the public hearing for 65 Harvard Street. There is one, I got a communication from Lowell General Hospital. They're looking to temporarily expand the parking lot. They're apparently experiencing a parking crunch. So I've communicated to them that it would be an amendment to the site plan that was originally approved by the board. I suspect that we'll receive something soon that we'll have it on the agenda for November 7th. I don't have a lot of information on what it looks like, though.
Your understanding is it the parking area in the back where they were going to take some of the?
Yes, exactly.
the
So if
drainage
you're,
area, okay.
if you're facing the site back left, it's a current parking lot right now, and they're just gonna add a couple stalls. It's not in the original site plan, so even if it's temporary, it's something that they would think the planning board need to amend. But other than that, and then also there's the Gorham Street project, which will be coming up in the second meeting in November.
Second meeting in November, okay. That's the one we saw, yeah, the one we saw for the preliminary last time,
The Coalition for a Better Acre.
across from Superior Court, with the Cooney built, where Cooney is right now.
Oh, yeah.
They want to put those, the
Down
Coalition for
there,
Better
yeah, sure.
Acre, right?
Correct.
Yeah, remember 2 phases? I think they were 5 and 6 stories.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
5 and 6?
5 or 6, yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head, yeah. That's about it.
Any comments from board members? No?
So
No, it's not. Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn?
moved.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. We have adjourned, good night, thank you, everyone.